Yeah, this is making sheep fleeces without killing the sheep.
Okay.
So it's a vegetarian sheep skin, more or less.
Wow. And it's for jumpers or for?
No, for sitting on.
Ah, for sitting on.
These are small pieces. They're like what's hanging over there. I use them. You just put them on your seat.
Ah, okay. Wow.
And I make the big ones like over there. You put them on the
That's
floor
like
or in the bed or on the wall or something like that. Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
I have a machine to do the hard work.
Special machine.
It's a felting machine.
Okay, wow. Cool.
So, is it okay if I walk around or does the
Yeah,
microphone not pick it up, you think?
The microphone is is quite sensitive, so
yeah.
you can walk around and and come back and do whatever.
Fine. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, the first question I would like to ask is perhaps where you would place the work that you do here, like in the context of what's dominant, and what is business as usual for the farms in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And comparing yourself to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are not a typical sheep farmer because we are a grazing company, and we do grazing jobs for nature organizations and like gemeentes, what do you call it? Communal
Municipalities.
Yeah, government, local governments, things like that, and so that is a sort of business that hasn't really existed very long. In the old days, you used to have lots of shepherds in the Netherlands, but they mainly lived off selling lambs for meat. And nowadays, the modern grazing companies, they live off the grazing jobs they do. So we get paid to graze nature areas, because without grazing, they would turn into forest. So that's what happens. So there is not really a tradition of grazing companies as such, but most grazing companies do not only do grazing jobs, but they also make money out of selling lambs, either live to people who fatten them and sell them for meat, or they sell them for meat themselves. And then a lot of grazing companies also have other activities on the side, such as tourism or lambing festival or excursions or tours or and like we have wool workshops and we sell woolen felted fleeces. So that's what we do on the side. And my husband is a full-time shepherd, and we have one shepherd who's working for us, and I work in the company part-time.
Okay.
So I do the administration and the wool and the sales of the lamb meat, and if we organize events such as a lambing festival, then I organize that as well. And sometimes we take part in a collective market stall at special events, and I organize that as well.
Okay, cool. And if you would compare yourself maybe to agriculture as a whole in the Netherlands, in terms of your morals and like values?
Yeah, it's really hard to compare because most agricultural companies are their aim is to produce something, and our aim is not to produce something, but to to produce a good quality nature area. That's our aim. So it's not a product. We're not making a product as such.
Okay.
So that's so that makes us difficult to compare to any other company, I suppose.
Okay, but I mean that's quite interesting, actually, because producing a good quality nature area still provides, services to communities and things like that. Yeah, that's fine.
A funny thing that shows the difference between us and the other sheep farmers is the wolf. You must have heard that the wolf has come into the Netherlands lately.
Mm-hmm.
And and most nature organizations in the Netherlands are really enthusiastic about that, because that means that all the management that has gone into nature, in Holland all nature is managed, they feel that it has paid off by making room for the wolf, which has been out of the country for a century and a half or something. I don't know exactly. But the last wolf was killed in 1863.
And now it's come back.
But of course, it creates a whole lot of problems too. Because each sheep likes to eat sheep if they're available. So what you have to do is make sheep unavailable. Because the nature organizations are really enthusiastic about the wolf, and they are the ones giving us the grazing jobs. Shepherds would not be able to say, well, we have to kill all these wolves because they're eating our sheep. Most sheep farmers are passionately against the wolf. They don't want these wolves. Yeah, so that makes a big difference between us and sheep farmers, I suppose.
Okay.
And for us, the meat on the lambs is not the most important aim. So we have a different breed of sheep from other sheep farmers. Most sheep farmers would have Tesselaars or Swifters or typical meat breeds. Or there are also some sheep farmers who have milk sheep. That's also a different breed. The sheep that we have, they're heideschapen, heath sheep, and they would be they don't provide as much meat as a Tesselaar sheep, but it's much more suitable for grazing in the heather because it has high, thin legs. It's a robust sheep. It can deal with a poorer diet than Tesselaars. They need to have fat grass, otherwise they dwindle away. So
Wow, I mean, I'm very interested in when you say that you're kind of producing healthy nature areas.
Yeah.
Would you say that conventional sheep farms don't produce healthy nature areas, or
no, they don't graze in nature. They graze in a grassy field that is oftentimes owned by the sheep farmer, or it is leased from another farmer, or sometimes they do dikes as well. The water board. But no, mostly they don't do nature areas because their type of sheep is not particularly suited for nature.
Yeah, this question might seem a little not relevant, but so a lot of academic kind of theories arise that like the coronavirus has managed to come into being because nature is being destroyed, like the wilderness areas.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that in relation to then like the work that you do in the coronavirus?
Well, I don't really believe that. It's a nice thought to see that nature strikes back from all the things we've done to it. I don't really believe in it. I think it's just a coincidence. But I do believe that we have hastened it by moving around so much. both
Okay.
ourselves as all the products in the world. So that has, but you know, you had the Spanish flu in after the First World War, and yeah, that was also a coincidence with all the soldiers traveling around all over Europe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's, yeah, I think it's just bad luck. And it can happen again, and it may not happen for another 100 years.
Okay.
It's just coincidence. But well, for us, the coronavirus, for our sheep raising, it has not affected us at all, because we can just go into the nature area, no problem. And
do you need help taking that out? Or?
sorry?
Do you need help?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
It's most water is out now, so it's not that heavy.
But do you think the way that food is produced nowadays leaves communities vulnerable to crisis? Like,
Yeah. I used to work for BioNext, which is an organization for organic agriculture. So I'm quite an organic kind of person.
mm-hmm.
So I don't agree of intensive farming and things like that. So I really hope that when this coronavirus will make a difference.
Geen problemen.
But I'm not really sure it will. But I really hope, because the good thing about the coronavirus is that the sales of all the local the farm shops
Mm-hmm.
have I think quadrupled. They've had so much more customers. Not only because people are more thinking about where they come from, but also because people were bored stiff and they wanted to go somewhere as an outing. And the farm shop is a nice outing to the farm and to go for a nice bike ride. The weather was wonderful the whole time. So yeah. So I really hope that will stay. I'm not really sure. I'm afraid that, you know, when everybody goes back to work and is very busy again, that'll change maybe. I hope not, but
Okay. And has the coronavirus maybe like affected your opinion on how things should be like in the future in terms of food and being in nature?
I already thought
Okay.
like that.
So what did you think? What's your vision for the future of food and living on the land?
Yeah, I think that maybe we cannot go without intensive farming completely, but I think we can do a lot less of it. And one of the biggest problems in the Netherlands actually is the price of the land.
Mm-hmm.
1 hectare is around here is 100,000 euros.
Wow, that's a
So
lot.
that is a ridiculous amount of money that is nearly impossible to earn back. So, you know, this price of money this price of land is more or less forcing farmers to intensify, because that's the only way they can ever make that amount of money back. And that's something that should be done about it. I really don't know what, because you can hardly say, well, we'll keep the price in half, because everybody is now counting on that high price. So, but that's, for the Netherlands, that's one of the reasons that farming is so intensive. And another reason is that after the Second World War, there was this policy, no more hunger. after the Hangul winter. And so the government has promoted intensive farming for decades, and now all of a sudden they are saying, well, we should extensive farming. And for farmers, that's of course it's a difficult message, because they're saying the opposite thing now. And they've always learned in agricultural school, more efficiency, more yield per hectare, and so yeah.
Okay. Wow. But has the crisis maybe changed your opinion on how things could change? Like that change is possible when before maybe you didn't think the change was possible?
Yeah, I don't know. I think in agriculture, I think Corona is actually a minor factor. The main factor is, of course, nitrogen in the Netherlands, and Corona is,
Small
beer, I think you call it. So, yeah. So that's and the nitrogen crisis. Yeah, that's going to change agriculture definitely. And the farmers don't like it, but it's something that has to happen.
So, like, if we're thinking about the future food system that you envision, are there elements of that are happening now, like here at the moment?
Well, what's happening now is that more people are buying at farm shops, and I think that's great. It's the whole concept of the short chain. That also in Marjel we have several projects. You may have heard about it at the Hoogborn, on the short chain, promoting a shorter chain between the farmer and the consumer, which means that less money gets stuck in the wholesalers and the retailers, but if you sell them directly to the customers, then it means a better income for the farmer, but it also means more work for the farmer. You have to run a shop,
Yeah.
have a market stall or something like that.
And if we think about the past of agriculture in the Netherlands, do you think that the past can provide a lot of inspiration for the future of agriculture?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think things have changed so much in the price of land, and in the way things are organized, and in the mechanization, and I know stuff coming from abroad. Yeah, import and export. I don't think there's a way that we can go back to that. I mean, everything used to be done with horses, but nobody does things with horses. You have a tractor now. So I don't see people going back. And in the old days, there used to be 12 people on a farm working, and now there's usually one, and sometimes even part-time. I don't see that coming back either. I think it would be nice, but I don't see it happen. Really. And of course there are, have you been near the town?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are companies like that where, she's not even a hectare, I think, which is very small, and she has herself and 3 people, part-timers, living off it. Yeah, that's maybe a way, but I suppose it's not for everybody. She has to make money out of organizing events and weddings
and shops and things like that.
Everybody is trying to do something like that.
So I mean, I guess you find it quite difficult to then imagine how things can transition to.
I think the most missing development is the short chain.
The short chain.
The short chain, yes. Selling more directly to customers or cutting out the middleman and things like that. I really hope that that's because in Wageningen we're now also talking about having a local shop for regional products.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really hope that that will come to happen. That'll be great. Because I'm quite motivated myself, but I find myself going to the Albert Heijn at the end of a working day, buying everything, and I don't have time to go to all these farm shops. If I'm working. But if there would be one shop in Wageningen where they sell everything, then it would be much more attractive to buy. And also, I think I'm looking at Gabrielle. She's into the restaurant business. For restaurant people, if they can buy regional products at one place, it would be more attractive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, chefs don't have time to go to all these farm shops. No way.
No.
So if there would be either one shop or a distribution system where they can order it and it is brought to their restaurant, then it would be much more attractive, I think.
Super. So that would entail like creating new networks, you think, and new relationships?
Yeah, new networks, new relationships, new retail concepts, collective market stalls or a shop or a distribution, means of distribution, something like that. And that's actually now happening in Wageningen. Next week there's a meeting on, we're going to have a shop, a local shop for regional products.
On the high street, no?
Yeah, either on the high street or on the Bevrijdingsstraat or somewhere in the center or a place that's easily reached for people or near a supermarket maybe.
Okay, cool.
And it could be a shop or it could be like, maybe Veld and Beek. Have you spoken to them as well?
I've heard of them. I tried to speak to them, but they said they had no time.
And they have
the little fridge.
Containers with a freezer and a cooler in it, and they give people the key, and they write down what they buy. It's based on a honesty system, and that's also a possible solution. But I don't think I think it's you have to know everybody personally.
Yeah, is it not an illusion to think that small producers can feed the whole world? Like, there's almost 18 million people in Holland alone, so they have to eat.
Yeah, no, well, maybe not the whole world, but the Netherlands is now feeding. It's exporting 80% of what we produce.
Yeah, that's
so. I think in the
Netherlands, of course, too.
Yeah, well, but that's a lot less. I'm sure that we could. I'm sure that we could feed. I'm sure that we could feed the country if we farmed more extensively. But I'm not sure the farmers could make enough money out of it because, for one thing, the land is so expensive.
Not everybody has the money to buy.
No, and of course, short chain. It asks different expertise from you because you have to organize your chain, and of course, a lot of farmers find it very easy that the milk truck comes every day and then there it goes and that's it. You know? You don't have to worry about
selling your own product,
selling your own things, or packaging it, or pricing it, or having to worry about customers, or having people on your farm. A lot of people don't really like it. They have people in their premises, so it's not for everybody. So yeah, but but I would love it if it was possible, but I'm not sure it is. But I'm sure we can have more of it, because if I look at myself, I find that I'm quite motivated and I don't do it. I don't buy local stuff all the time because it's too complicated and it doesn't fit into my schedule. And if it would be easier, then I think I would do it more. Well, I think in Wageningen there are plenty of people who would agree. I think the potential for short chain products is a lot bigger. We just have to we have to tap into it. And I think that is the biggest challenge. Tapping into the potential. I'm sure the potential is there, not only in Wageningen but also in other places. You just have to make it attractive and easy enough for people to do it.
And this discussion of the local store, did that start during the Corona crisis or long before? Long before. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think this project started 2 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I expected a lot of local farmers to have been affected by the crisis in some form or another, but a lot of them have said that they weren't because they just kept doing what they were doing, and they kept their market didn't disappear because they have a local market and So
no, I think coronavirus has actually, if anything, it has only been good. It has benefited the local producers.
People are inventive.
Yeah.
Dutch people are inventive.
Yeah.
So I mean,
have something else to do and then they.
Yeah.
So I mean, but this I think goes back to your point about smallholder farmers not being able to produce food for everyone, but at the end of the day, when a certain system might collapse or come under stress because of coronavirus, at least the food is there, no? And they can help in one form or another, no?
Sure. Maybe not the whole population.
Yeah. Okay. So you think that an area with more local producers is more resilient or more capable to deal with the crisis or other crises?
Yeah, obviously, if something really, really awful would happen, like if the internet would collapse or electricity, something like that, it's not completely unthinkable that electricity would collapse, and then of course everything collapses, and of course people would be so happy if there are local farmers. Of course our freezing would defrost, but
They have meat to eat.
we have a lot of meat to eat. Exactly. But how do you tell people then that you have meat if you can't send them a Facebook message?
Or even call them on their phones because their phones have no battery.
Yeah. It's really scary to think about it. Something like that might ever happen.
But then you go back to the old days, no, when you had flyers and posters. And,
yeah, but how are you going to copy the flyers if you don't have a copy machine?
With a pencil, no?
Yeah, you have to draw it. Yeah, exactly. So it's really. Do you watch The Handmaid's Tale?
I haven't actually, sadly.
Okay, well, it's a fascinating series on. It's on Videoland. I don't have Videoland, but it was broadcasted on Fox. So I've recorded it at home and I'm looking at it. But it's a society that goes back to sort of 19th century. Way of doing things.
And that's because there's no electricity, or what?
Well, I haven't seen that many episodes to know exactly what. Yeah, they do have electricity.
But a lot of people here have said that like the coronavirus has not been a big enough crisis, and that they kind of hope for a bigger crisis.
Huh.
It's a dangerous thing to
Yeah,
say.
I know.
Be careful what you wish for, exactly.
Exactly. They're like, yeah, this crisis isn't big enough to transform the food system.
Well, maybe not to transform the food system,
Yeah.
but.
And yeah, I was wondering what would you both have to say in terms of how do we transition then into a more sustainable food system if this crisis, for instance, is not the solution? Like, how does that transition happen?
You have to start at schools maybe, because like there's so many people who even don't know where their food comes from.
Mm.
And I think that's important, and they give a damn where their food comes from.
Yeah, and not only normal schools but also agricultural schools, I suppose. And I know they're working on it. They're offering classes in short chain and crowdfunding and Neventakken. Verbrede landbouw, broadened agriculture, that you have more than just producing. You have your own shop, or you have a child care center, or you have a campsite, or, and all these extra activities mean that you get more in contact with society, and that also means that that society gets into more contact with agriculture, and that you know what's going on the farm. Because, if you actually visit a intensive pig farm, I think for a lot of people that's quite a shock, actually. But the amount of pig meat that is produced in the Netherlands, there's no way that we can produce that on a small hold farm. So then either we have to make sure that that the amount is lower, or we have to keep on doing it intensively. As long as we are not willing to pay.
Weet je, Jan met de pet, dit zal de worst wezen waar de worst vandaan komt.
Yeah,
Snap je?
yeah, exactly. As long as
people
a lot of people say, oh, it's these poor pigs, but when they go to the shop and they buy the cheapest pork chops. So yeah, well.
And they've never killed a pig themselves ever.
No. It's actually funny because there used to be Varken op de Leer, a pig slaughtering festival at the Hooilanden. Maybe you've been to the Hooilanden?
No, but I've heard of them.
Yeah. And the first time they organized it, I thought, oh, no, people don't want to really see a pig slaughtered. Now the pig was already dead, but it was,
being cut out.
Being cut out. But actually, there was quite a lot of interest from people, and that was a funny mix of people. It was a mix of hipster foodies and farm people. The old-fashioned farm people. Yeah, that's foodies. Yeah, the hipster foodies from Wageningen and the farm people from the Binnenveld here. Yeah, so that's
interesting.
It's funny. Because there are actually people who are interested to see how where that food comes from and how it's made. But there's also a big group of people who don't want to see how a pig is.
How do you think the Kruidenveld and the work that you do in the nature areas kind of shows society or government that there's so much more value in agriculture than simply producing food? But that
nog één invloed, zodat mijn 2 delen doen? Ja, sorry.
That like agriculture does more than just produce food, but also enhances nature, increases biodiversity, and provides other products.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the whole discussion about the European agricultural communal, what's it called? Way? Am I stopping?
Common agricultural
Common
policy.
agricultural policy, exactly. About how you or the government, the national government, could promote farmers to do more, to provide more services to society, the ecosystem services, and well, the common agricultural policy now is for a large part based on hectare payments, and there's big discussions on shifting that towards more ecosystem services. But of course, a lot of traditional farms are not really interested because they see that they will be losing money. So that's yeah, it's a thing. But I think it should go that way. I think there's no way we can keep up the system like it is now, and that is shown not so much by the corona crisis, but by the nitrogen crisis. I think the nitrogen crisis is for agriculture much more decisive in the way things will go than corona is.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.